quick switch over. Yeah, you can just switch me on to my full. I think everybody has gotten the opportunity to do that. And so we're going to start this conversation with Shalini Dharna. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So let's give a little bit about you and who you are, and then we're going to kind of jump into the effects of the tariff. So let's start here with Shalini. She's a financial advisor, right, and a money coach dedicating to helping entrepreneurs master their finances with confidence. As a mom of three boys and three dogs, I don't even know how and why and where you would have that amount of threes, but three is your number, it seems like.
Apparently.
She knows firsthand how the hustle is real, balancing business and life. Her superpower lies in making complex financial concepts simple and approachable. I can vouch for that. Empowering business owners not to only understand their numbers, but also thrive financially. So whether it's taxes, bookkeeping, financial strategy, she brings her expertise in a very down-to-earth approach. And I'm really happy that when she's taking the time to come out because it's tax season, y'all. And so she is busy crunching numbers, and hopefully she's gotten the kids to bed so she can spend a little time with us. So please welcome to the show, Shalini Dharna, CEO of Dharna CPA. How are you?
I'm good, and my kids are not asleep, so be prepared. My little one actually just came in while I was in the backstage. Can I have your phone? And I'm like, take my phone, go away.
It's like I'm busy.
Quite possible that I will have a cameo. So
right? How come kids don't even know the importance of these conversations we have? Like, it's like we're talking tariffs, honey. Get it together.
Well, he's 3, so all he cares about is chocolate or like
to be a child. To be a child once again, the things that we never really had to worry about, right? Now we're sitting here wondering and crunching numbers and, putting in tax slips and whatnot. But, I thought, Shalini, you would be a great addition to tonight's show because you are an accountant. And I mean, you deal with money on various levels, not with just startups, but with corporations, who are making millions. And you work with people who make thousands and people who are struggling just to get off to the first dollar. Right. So what are your thoughts overall about this whole political landscape around tariffs and the business and how it's affecting businesses?
There's definitely a lot of fear around it, a lot of uncertainty as to what ultimately the impact is going to be for people. It's kind of an unnecessary headache. I mean, if you think about it politically, you've got one country being like, well, I'm going to put tariffs on you. And the other one's like, if you do that, I'm going to do it back to you. Like, it's almost like tantrums between toddlers of like,
oh man, right? It's clearly, right? Yeah.
Who suffers at the end of the day? It's consumers. It's the citizens that suffer from this, not the political people. Donald Trump isn't going to lose any sleep over this, but small business owners, they will be.
Yes, you're very right. And that we talk about some of the pieces that are going to have those, retaliatory measures. Shout out, hey, Georgie Porgy's on the line, the COC socials. I've been shouting out a few of the people watching. She said, hello, ladies. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Some of the things that we see that are going to be coming into effect is things like increased tension. Like we're seeing that now, to your point, that back and forth, give me my toy. No, you give me my toy. No, I'm going to punch you. Well, I'll punch you back, right? And we can see that these can escalate, leading to some back and forth tariffs. Like, oh, we're going to slap you with tariffs 25%. And so we said, well, we're going to slap you with tariffs, on this and that and the other. And so that causes some kind of trade disruptions, right? Because it's going to hit those trade flows, impact businesses and most likely the consumers.
Exactly. It's going to impact, ultimately it's going to trickle down to almost everything. Everything has a cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So with a tariff specifically, the cost of all of our products is just going to go up because the majority of business owners are just going to pass that cost on to consumers.
Yes. And then some of those, and also it creates some kind of limit in the product availability, right? But I mean, tell me your perspective on this. I'm going to share mine because clearly we're talking about it, but what is your perspective on availability of US products?
I understand to an extent, I understand his rationale of trying to bring manufacturing back into America, right? Why do
Mm-hmm.
we outsource everything to other countries just because they're doing it cheaper? And I will admit, I think Canada has an opportunity here to really reestablish our own in-house manufacturing and businesses. Why are we relying on these other countries so much to produce our goods? As you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, it's going to cause perhaps scarcity, because if things are more expensive, the cost is going up, the demand
Right.
is going to go, the demand isn't going to necessarily go away, but the availability or the opportunity to buy some things may now be out of people's pockets, right? They may not be able
Yeah.
to afford certain luxuries. And so you're going to see this kind of just, it's going to be a roller coaster ride, really.
I think it's a way of life, really. I think it's, change is so scary for so many people that this is something where it's like, here we have an opportunity to strengthen our economy as Canadians. Like, we have the same square footage as the US in terms of land, right? Our population, not so much. but clearly, I mean, at the end of the day, I always believe that if there is something to be changed, the real question is what really. I mean, I'm not talking broad economic scale, but if you look at your day to day, like if you have to eat eggs from Canada, it's not going to be the worst thing since sliced bread. You know what I mean?
Be a matter of shifting priorities of where your
100%.
goes, right? If you can't afford all the things that you've been buying because now something is more expensive, okay, where is that shift going to happen in your budget? I've already seen so many people throughout this whole political conversation be like, I'm not going to go travel to America. That's cool.
Yes.
Can you travel within Canada? Why are we always going to the States to travel? So it's going to definitely
They
allow.
have better commercials. Like,
Right?
let's be real. They don't, like, if you look at the tourism in Canada, there are beautiful locations. British Columbia, I could name a few. But there's just, you don't see it on TV. You see Disney, you see, Miami, hot beaches. And I've been to Miami. I don't think it's all that in a bag of cake. I mean, I think you need to be like living somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, I watch the shows and the real estate, and it looks so beautiful. And then when you go down there, you're like, where did I land? Because this ain't Miami, but
Well,
you know.
it gives the opportunity to really explore local. And I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, when Doug Ford did the staycation credit, like if you actually
Yes,
travel
the
in.
$2,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so that incentivized us to stay within Ontario and travel within Ontario. I think tariffs in general are going to be an opportunity for us to be a bit more creative. If something is more expensive because you're importing it, can we create it in-house? Now, it's not an overnight
At
transition,
all. At
right?
all.
If
Yeah.
we're going to start building manufacturing plants or having to procure resources in different ways, it's not going to change overnight. So it's definitely going to be a shift.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand. I mean, so far, no tariffs have even been actually implemented, but everyone's just waiting for the shoe to drop.
And you know what? I think we can encourage people here, buy Canadian. You know what I mean? Just start thinking about it. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if, let's just say, forget tariffs, let's just say unforeseen circumstances and, all trains, bus, planes, automobiles, donkeys, everything that was toting something across a border is no longer working. Then what would we do? You know what I mean? Like, how do we create that sense? And I'm talking to the audience now, like, how do we create that sense of I guess I would say even pride, to say that, what, can we make a hat here? Like, they always say, well, it costs more, but let me be real. You out there buying these luxury brands from cross border for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like, if you look what the conversion rate is now in terms of currency, I mean, you're literally buying out American products that are at 6, 7, 800 USD, and you're excited to walk with your Birkin bag, and you're excited to walk with your Michael Kors, and that's money that's not coming into the economy here at all.
It's definitely going to highlight the importance of identifying a need versus a
Yeah.
want, right?
Yeah.
And I think even in terms of like the businesses that are impacted, if you need to have something, groceries, you need to have it, but maybe you don't need to buy as many grocery products. You can do simpler meals, or there's always ways to adjust to fit your budget. And it's really going to be a matter of streamlining, like I said, a need versus a want.
100%. I agree. And I think there's much more to talk about, especially with day-to-day life. But let's talk a little bit about the business. Let's talk to the business side, because you know it is Business Weekly. If you're just joining, welcome to Afrobeat. Love Bay. I keep putting Afrobeat before Love Bay. I don't know why. I'm gonna get this right. But Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. If you're just joining us, we have Shalini Dharna here. She's the CEO of Dharna CPA, and today we're discussing tariffs and mitigating the impact. Now, we both work with businesses in our own respective fields. I am your drip strategist and boss methodologist, Myth J, and I help people to build their businesses, whether it's from a start model or a scale. And I thought having Shalini on this show, who is an accountant, a chartered accountant, and she's worked with many businesses, from whether complex financial concepts. What are your thoughts? Let's start a little bit talking about the impact on the businesses. So let's talk about the tariffs effect to cost and goods and sold, and the calculation of taxable income for the businesses. How are that going to affect?
So first of all, cost of goods sold is basically the cost to procure your product, right? So tariffs primarily impact manufacturing-based businesses, a product-based business. If you're selling your service, if I'm doing a consultation or you're doing a consultation, it's not going to impact service-based businesses as much as a product-based business, right? And so the tariff is going to make it more expensive to procure that product. If all of a sudden the cost of your materials increases, then your cost of goods sold increases, and that decreases your profit margin, unless you can pass that cost off to your customers. So one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to have to increase your pricing, which could naturally drive away a customer because it makes your product perhaps unaffordable to them, or it's going to decrease your profit margin, which means that you have to pay yourself less, which is going to impact your personal income, right? Or you're going to end up letting somebody go or cutting down your operating costs so that you're not personally impacted. Those are the only two options with tariffs.
Well, I would throw a third option in there, that you have to sell more, so it becomes quantity driven, right? I mean, if you're looking at a average sales of, let's say you're selling 50 or 60,000, and your take home might be about 20K, let's just say after expenses, then it would behoove you to start looking at better marketing strategies, where you're getting the word out there a little bit more, and you're accruing more customers. Because let me tell you, 10-cent gum back in the day, I mean, they stayed around for a very long time because they were selling millions of 10-cent gums,
With increasing your volume, it can be a struggle because then you have to increase your production, right? And so that, again, is a little bit more of you need to plan that strategy of
100%.
You can't
100%.
just take on customers or take on orders without having the process to increase your production. But yeah, that definitely is the third option, that you then have to sell more to make up that profit margin.
I mean, the big businesses are going to take a bigger hit than any small business will, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're looking at what, an Amazon, or not, let's take Amazon because they're more of a carrier per se. But if you're looking at people who do direct to market, they really are going to be in the same boat as any small business, right? But I think where the flexibility of a small business is that you can turn and pivot a little bit faster than some of these bigger corporations. So definitely looking at within house and checking your budget and sitting down, doing some great financial planning and understanding where your projections are going is going to be definitely a thing for sure.
Yeah, and to your point, a small business has a lot more flexibility. They can bundle things. You can throw on something to make your product more incentivized. Whereas the Walmarts and the dollar stores, they're just going to pass on the cost. And so now if it's more expensive, you can shop around and support local, and maybe not even pay that much more than what you would be at a Dollarama type thing.
Yeah, I think there's a stigma sometimes attached thinking, and it's played out. And I think that's the one thing I say in media: you have to be careful what you're listening to and how you're interpreting, because there is a sense of fear that they've put over it. This tariffs has loomed where I see opportunity for businesses to expand, especially Canadian brands, and say, hey, listen, if they're removing, I mean, I told my husband the other day, I'm about to go make some liquor. I'm about to go make a bottle of something, because if they remove all the American bottles, honey, they're going to be buying my bottles, right? So I think there's that thought process that, yes, this is a reality, and yes, these are very true, and you have business analysts and everyone talking about these things. But I think there are some now who are really changing their tune. I mean, Rob Ford, give it up to him. Shout out. I'm a fan here nor there, but I respect the hustle. I respect the comeback. I respect the stand up. Like, don't be trying to come up here and bullying us little Canadians. Yes, we as Canadians, like, no, can't be
100%.
bullying us. Like, stand up.
Yeah, we get American product off the shelf. That's opening up shelf space for Canadian
products. Exactly. And that's where I think that's where this thought process is, belief systems, right? It goes back to belief systems. We've grown up with these products. We can tell you what we wore from day, when we were 6, 7, 8 years old, and your mom took you to buy away. Okay, maybe your mom did take you buy away, but mom took me to buy away.
Buy away, and
you know what I'm saying? And honest, you know what I'm saying?
For what was it, consumer something, where you go
consumers,
like
consume the catalog. We used to cut out the watches and put it on our hands and say we had Seiko watches, like we were, or Casio or whatever they were called.
This isn't the first time or the last time that our economy is going to go through this type of transition, right? There's always
there's always going to be, and there has been. We've gone through recessions. We've gone through. I mean, I'm still 25, so I've lived a long, healthy life, but we've gone through some things and we've come out on the other end. And I think it's just about, even for small businesses, it's that urge to understand business, right? Because things are pivoting. And if you're not paying attention to those things that are changing, and things will continue to change. I mean, tech came in over and took over the world, right? Who knew?
To also explore relationships with other countries, right? Tariff is only with America. They're not the only country in the world.
They're not. We can find origins elsewhere.
Right. And so it gives you the opportunity to explore other relationships, other countries. Really, if America does go through with it, they're kind of just shooting themselves in the foot.
100%. 100%. What ways, let's throw this question at you. What ways do tariffs influence a company's import duties and overall tax liabilities?
Well, I mean, they're going to directly increase the cost of that product. So as I said, it's going to increase your cost of goods sold as an expense. And that's going to make your taxable income actually go down, right? Because if you're spending more on a product, your profit goes down unless you, like I said, increase your prices to make up that difference. And so it's just a matter of, it's going to impact your sales volume and your profitability, indirectly impacting your taxes.
100%. So if you are, I mean, this is something to be having a conversation with your accountant about now. Start to really get that planning under your belt. Pull up your accountant, as I do. I mean, you're sitting and watching my accountant right here on the screen. I said to her, lady, help me out here, right? And she, the workshops, the knowledge product, we were just talking earlier, and we were just actually talking about IG views and some of the tips and things that you're putting out there. And, I think a lot of people are not, yes, you were just talking about, you're not getting as much hits as you once did, and I think there's a lot of times that since the pandemic, everyone has kind of come back to some old ways, you know what I mean? Whereas back when it was COVID, everyone was locked in and learning and growing and strengthening their knowledge and skills. And, yes, I find that now it's harder and harder to get them to see some of the things that, like, listen, this led to this, and this is why businesses were shutting down. Because of lack of knowledge, because lack of skill, because lack of capacity, people weren't doing proper financial planning. People weren't having better operational models. Nobody had contingency funds. And people were out there borrowing all this CERB money and all these little business relief loans and stuff. And now, they're taking a hit because they can't pay these things back, right? So it's really important, that we spread that message and we keep going, because there's going to be another shift where, your tips and tricks, are going to be very vital. But I think that's something that we have to keep pushing on.
Well, if the pandemic taught us anything as a small business owner, having some backup funds is vital, because if
100%.
things go down, or if you can't, you lose your job or something, they're not going to do a CERB again, right? Like, that kind of blew up in people's faces. I don't see a world where that happens again. If, jobs are lost, because of manufacturing shutdowns or what have you. So this is really an opportunity for you as a business owner to kind of sit down and be like, do I have a backup plan if I lose customers because I have to increase my pricing, or if I have to, pivot my business in some way? What are the potential impacts? And that's where a strategist like you is going to really help them see all the different options and really prepare.
100%. And preparation starts very early in the game. And I talk to clients and I say to them, contingency funds, believe it or not, saves lives. And I'm going to make it that dire, but it does, because especially if you have a business and you're feeding your kids and you're paying your rent and you're doing all of this stuff, they never factor in where a month, sometimes they just don't factor in a month where it's not going to be the greatest sales, right? Every company has that month where it's like, whoa, bad quarter. And then let's sit at the drawing board and see why people are not buying my products anymore. And so the tariffs are just going to put an extra layer on that pressure.
The good thing is a tariff at least is consistent across the board, right? So you and your competitors are going to be facing the exact same obstacles at the exact same times. Whereas going back to the pandemic, some businesses stayed open, some were shut. Like that was not an even, but this is going to be consistent. So you really kind of think about what your game plan is. Do a little bit of market research. If you're charging $5 and the competitors are charging more, well, maybe you need to price adjust anyways, regardless of tariffs.
Which leads to our next question. I want you to hold that, because the question, I wanted people to hear the point. Can tariffs lead to changes in pricing strategies that affect sales tax collection for businesses? So I want you to continue now with that answer.
Sales tax specifically, no, you're still going to charge your sales tax, GST, HST, PST, on your final sale to customers.
Government still wants their money, honey.
Government still wants money. So what it's going to change is either you're going to pass on the increased cost. If it's costing me, $5 to make a widget, and if it used to cost me $4 and now it's costing me $5, I'm going to pass on that extra buck to my customer, right? So now you need to incentivize people to spend more money on something that they were getting. And again, everybody understands why the prices are going to go up. What you're going to struggle with is if people can afford the new pricing, right? And that's where maybe you be creative, give people payment plans or incentivize them to do business with you versus your competitor so that you can get more of that market share. But yeah, it's going to make everybody look at the pricing strategies again, because your cost of procurement is now that much more expensive. But all of your competitors in the same business are going to have the same problems. And
that leads to, some of the things that we look at in long-term planning. When we talk about quarterly planning, it's for that specific reason. You're projecting based on the reflection from your past quarter, your past year-over-year trend, whatever, that story tells. You got to listen to the story, and you got to look at your consumers. For some, it's not even just changing the pricing, but sometimes it's looking at the demographic you're serving and looking at the products you have. This is a good time to really review how much are you spending in COGS. I short form everything. COGS, cost of goods and services. Like how much are you spending to make these products? And when I work with my clients, we do a very detailed line by line, dollar and cent, and I want you to measure everything and I want you to cost everything. And they look at me like I'm nuts, but sometimes when they finish, they're like, holy cow, I didn't realize I was spending so much and not charging the right price.
I get that all the time with my clients who don't take into consideration the cost of their own labor. And it's like, okay, you are, producing your product for free, but if you hire somebody, they're going to want to get paid. And if that's not built into your pricing, how are you going to pay somebody to help you grow?
1,000%.
Into your pricing.
1,000%. You're saying, all the things. I hope y'all are listening to these gems and taking them in, because let me tell you something. We around here weekly, honey, right here in Love Bay, Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Business Weekly with your girl, Miss J. Each week I'm here talking about things that empower entrepreneurs who are building their empires. And we have right here, as you can see on the screen, Shalini Dharna, CEO of Dharna CPA. It's a long name, corporate professional something, right?
I had to put professional corp. That's a legal thing. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So I just say Dharna CPA. I love that. Dharna CPA. It's short. If you're going to be able to hit her up, you can follow her at one Shalini. I'll put up the QR code after so you can scan and follow her and read some of those amazing tips. She has been very at the forefront of this tariffs conversation and making sure as tax time comes around that businesses are understanding how to financially plan for some incoming changes within it. Let's talk a little bit about the impacts on business regarding tax planning and forecasting strategies. How would tariffs have an impact on that from your perspective?
So not so much tax planning, but forecasting 100%. So it's tax season right now. So hopefully your bookkeeping is already done. But if you are now scrambling to get your bookkeeping done, this is an opportunity to look at your expenses. Where are you spending money? And if you find that you cannot increase your pricing because you're going to, market yourself, you're going to price yourself out of the market. Well, now you can look at your expenses and be like, well, do I have any discretionary expenses that I can cut out so that my take-home pay stays the same, right? Making the product increases, but my price stays the same. I'm reducing something called my gross profit.
Yeah.
Right? And so the gross profit is what pays for all of my other expenses, including my own payment, my own salary.
Yeah.
And so this is a great time to take a look at all your expenses and find those expenses that slip through the cracks that you don't even, there's a few just off the top of my head, like subscriptions and professional development. You might be paying for things that you don't even use. Now is a great time to start cutting all that fat.
Yes, trim the fat. And in addition to that, you could also think about, factoring in your operations into your COGS. I think, there's value in understanding how to make sure everything is covered before you take your profit, right? I say I'd rather you walk away with $5 profit knowing you've paid yourself. You paid your operational expenses for the month. You paid all of the cost of your goods and services by itself. If all of that's covered and you have $5 left over, you're winning. Because at the end of the day, all of the necessity things that make your business run are taken care of, right?
And if you look at pricing strategies, if you actually go into it, you're supposed to add to your cost of goods sold a percentage for overhead and then mark that up to your selling price, right? Like there is an actual technical way that you're supposed to.
Oh my God, it is so complex.
But
it's needed.
Sometimes the number that we come up with from an accounting point of view is just not feasible from a actual marketing point of view, because it's like, well, if I actually cover my costs, I'm going to price myself out, or their competitors are undercutting something, right? So this is a great time for you to really understand your entire structure and do some competitive research and look at other ways to procure some of your materials or the cost so that it is attainable to pay yourself the same amount of money.
And any other potential tax deductions or credits as well, right? Sometimes you don't even know that you have them. If you're not well versed in it, contact your accountant and have that conversation. So let's just do a quick recap before we move on. We've been talking about a few key things here that I want each and every entrepreneur. I hope you have your pen and papers. I hope you have your phones. I hope you hit the replay on this, because why this is something that's happening now, right? Very current. So again, you want to remind yourself that things that are going to be increasing, look at your supply chain, check at what the products you're using to make your product or service. Are they going to go up, and have you accounted for that in the forecast for your Q2? Depending on when you start. Right now, if you're a January to December business, you're literally walking through Q2, going into Q2, Q3. And then you have to start thinking about what are some of the ways, if you heard Shalini say earlier, what are some of those discretionary spending habits that you have to look down on? Like maybe you're not taking everybody out to lunch and taxing, writing off meal plans anymore, you know what I mean? Because that money could be used to offset some of the costs that you're going to have in terms of keeping your prices competitive, right? We don't say low, we say competitive, right? Because at the end of the day,
And
you're
you should be
competing.
doing that analysis regardless of tariffs, of where your money is going and where you
Oh,
can.
100%. But you know, people are going to be doing that
Yeah.
on the fare bus. You know, like you could tell them to the blue in the face. And some people are like, I've met businesses where it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I'm like, have you not looked at your whole situation? And they're like, not really, because money was always in the bank, you know? So, yeah,
Exactly.
sorry. Continue. You got me there.
I was just gonna say, like, this tax season, I always say is the best opportunity. You don't want to do your bookkeeping just to figure out how much you're owing the tax man. You should be doing your bookkeeping to figure out what's working and not working in your business. And knowing that if they do implement tariffs and if there's retaliatory tariffs that impact your supply chain, you then already know, okay, well, it cost me 2 eggs to make a cake. I'm saying that because I see Georgie's was posting, right? And the cost of eggs are now increasing. Well, I then either have to make my cake more expensive or I'm going to have to cut other expenses to make up for that difference.
100%. Or I'm going to have to raise my own chicken so I could get that extra egg for free. I don't know. Do something with it, people. Like, make it work. Turn your backyards into farms. I mean, there's things you can do. Okay, I'm just going to throw this in there. It's not business related, but it's very much. I started growing, well, not me per se, but my husband, we planted vegetables in our backyard. Like we literally, when we were buying our home, we were looking for great square footage in the backyard so that we can grow our own vegetables. So, and that saved a lot of money. And I just think anything that comes from these stores these days, they rot in 5 seconds after you purchase them anyways. So things like kale and, you know, these are times to start looking at alternative lifestyle measures, right? I mean, wherever you can put money away into your portfolio for future, that's what you're really trying to do. And that goes with business, it goes with life, it goes with any major dreams and stuff that you're having. Let's talk a little bit about deductions and credits available to businesses. Do you see the tariffs having any impact on these things that are available to businesses?
So I'm not an import export expert, but I know that there are certain credits that can be available for people that are in that import export. Like there's something called the duty drawbacks program. I don't know too much details because I don't actually have a lot of clients in that space. But I do believe that if there are retaliatory tariffs and if this thing becomes something, there's going to have to be something to help small business owners that are really feeling the impact to either offset some of those costs through tax deductions. But as of right now, other than the standard import export, trade agreement programs, I'm not an expert in that area, so I don't know too much about those particular programs.
Well, you sounded really good saying it though. So you did know, you killed it on delivery. But she's right that there are some eligibilities for certain deductions and credits, especially those related to import and export activities, right? But businesses have to assess their tax strategies to maximize those benefits. So if you are a company who does deal with a lot of imports and exports in Canada, again, check in with your professional and see what's going on.
For other programs, like for other businesses, your deductions remain the same. You know, you've got your small business rate for corporations, making sure that you're just claiming all your expenses and not missing any of those types of, good bookkeeping is going to make sure that you capture everything. But in terms of specific credits related to the tariffs, we'll just have to wait and see what comes up.
100%. I want to thank you so much, Shalini. I want you to follow Shalini. I'm going to put up her QR code, and you can actually put her QR code up now, and follow her at Dharna CPA and check her out. There's amazing gems on her page. This will be up on a replay as well. So if you missed it, please feel free to hit the replay and take it in. I know I'm going to be having her back on this show, maybe in a few weeks, because we are in tax season. I think this is an appropriate time to have some conversations about write-offs. Now, she is located in Canada, so she's going to be giving you Canadian tax information, but the principles are pretty much the same across the world, right? There are certain things that everyone pays taxes somewhere, And so you're going to have the ability to hear what are some of the things that you should be thinking about when it comes to deductions. Shalini, let us know what you want us to know before you go, and get back to your life.
Yeah. So like I said, I for any small business owner out there that's, worrying about this, we're all going to be in this together. And I really do think that Canadians are going to band together and try to find solutions to these problems. So this is the great time to just network and collaborate with each other. If you're afraid, don't keep it in. That's the worst thing you can do as a small business owner, is keep things kind of to yourself.
That's
But
right.
we're gonna fight this together, and we're gonna prevail.
And I think that's the key words, put together. Like you're looking at, us as professionals and what we do. We are part of your team as entrepreneurs, right? And so, have yourself your business strategist, have yourself your accountant. And I'm not talking somebody who just can tell you dollars and cents, but somebody who truly understands concepts and that they can help you to build your business. Because believe it or not, your accountant is, one of your foremost team members that you want to have. That you can't afford a CFO, not a problem. You can still call your accountant, right? And many of them are able to help you out. So I want to thank you so much, Shalini, for coming on. I wish you the best as you go through the rest of your tax season. And I look forward to bringing you back on Business Weekly to talk about taxes, more taxes, and more taxes.
Love it.
Have a good one. Thank you. Now, as we sit here and we're going through these concepts, we've talked a lot about the tax component of things, but we also know that there are some other alternative concepts that can be utilized when it comes to that. And that could be something as simple as diversifying your resource. We talked about that, alternative suppliers. So sit down, take a look. If you have a struggle, call me. You can hit me up rather at info@empirebydesign.ca. You can reach out directly and let's talk. Let's look at your business. Let's look at your plans. Let's look at the blueprint and see if we have to make any alternative. We talked about pricing strategies. So you want to do a cost analysis. By conducting a cost analysis, you're going to determine whether or not you're going to have to make some adjustments to customers so that you can offset some of the increased costs, as Shalini was saying earlier. And that kind of value proposition is really around focusing on the strengthening your value proposition, right? Because this is going to emphasize quality and more of your unique features. I always say that the wheel is never reinvented, to be honest. But I mean, if you put some rims on it, let's go, right? It's going to be a whole different ball game. Another concept you can think about is product modification. You might have to start doing some re-engineering. I have one client where she did her cost of goods and services, and she recognized that she was taking a heavy hit on some of the products that she was using. And she definitely sat there and took some weeks to re-engineer the product, and it was just as good, if not better. But if she didn't think about, reducing the overall cost, she would have continued not making the profit that she could have particularly made. Increasing your inventory. So you might want to stockpile some key items that you're going to need, right? Especially if some of your supplies are going to be hit by the tariffs. You want to make sure that you can stockpile some. And this is where we talk about contingency funds. This is where I talk about inventory expansion funds. These are all little things that you have to start doing on a day-to-day basis in your operations. If you make $1, make sure that everything is paid and you take that remaining money and reinvest. And you put a small portion aside for your contingency or your inventory expansion funds, because by doing this, you're able to pivot when things come, whether they're raising prices for some of your product or whether or not you need to carry more inventory to take on more orders, right? So that's something you can look at doing. You can balance your just-in-time inventory with strategic stockpiling to manage those costs effectively. We talked about supply chains efficiencies. You want to optimize your logistics. You want to look at streamlining things. You want to look at your transportation process. Are you using the right delivery systems and whatnot? And then looking to work with your suppliers. Like, how many of you actually have good relationship with your suppliers? That's what you got to think about, because that's how you optimize your supply chain. And you can look at talking about sharing costs, because sometimes in this day and age, you could probably have a conversation where they may share the cost in terms of some of the things that are happening, or they might be changing their MOQs. So you want to really keep on top of where they're going and keeping those conversations going so that you can be a little bit more, what's that word, strategic in managing, those pieces. All right, so those are some of the thoughts. If you do have questions, please feel free to send them over to infolovebay@gmail.com. Definitely will be happy to answer those questions or to pass them on to Shalini. If you want to reach out to her, we put her IG up, so make sure you're reaching out to her. So, what is trending in the news today? Well, I'm excited to say that there are some great things happening right here in our local businesses. I'm going to ask my producer to put up on the screen right now. Dark Nubia Naturals is doing their thing. So part of what I do as a business strategist is I help to find business development opportunities for companies so that they can expand on their brand. And this one I thought was going to be super fun because we had the ability to introduce I met Dark Nubia, or Peta from Dark Nubia, the CEO of Dark Nubia Naturals. She's located at Jane Weston, so if you are in that area, please feel free to check her out at 1185 Weston Road. She does a lot of great products, and I was able to broker a deal where she is taking on 6, or actually I think it's 7, right? I'm going to run with 6 for now. Brands that are going into the store, and excited to say that they're going to be launching the official launch of these brands will be there starting March 5th. So if you're there, we are sending out information for you to come out. Dark Nubia Naturals is hosting the Sweet Spot Tripping Along Royal Roots. Let me actually run that back. So we have the Sweet Spot who offers mobile spa services. She will be also being able to touch down there if you're close in the area and you want to get her to come to your home or even go to the store, then that is something that you can do. We also have Tripping Along. So they are a company who really deals with meal and snack time solutions. They have amazing products. Oh my God, if you see the plates, the Afro Cutie plates, crazy. Next time I'll have some of the products so that you can see. Royal Roots Beauty is out there doing the thing as well. She actually has a spot there and she does a layer of spa type services and also produces products. She really factors in on castor oil. So if you're really into that, please feel free to go out there and check that out. We have New Gentle, who is specializing in hair oils, and she actually says the hair oils that she's been using, if you want to see how long and luscious her hair is, she's making me a believer. So check out New Gentle. After these, Yaga My Locks is on the come up. Yaga My Locks not only does crown accessories for lock adornments, for braids, for single strand, but she's also the first certified hair sprinkle tech. Now, hair sprinkle is an actual installation that you have to literally put in your hair. It's not something you can do yourself. She literally has to install it, and you have to be certified to do it. And she is actually putting Canada on the map by being the first hair sprinkle tech right here in Canada. And then last but never least, there is actually 2 more. We have Aphrodisiac Designs, who is a self-care and product company who does bonnets and robes and other self-care accessories. The whole aphrodisiac motion is to fall in love with oneself. And then we have Strength in Hands. Strength in Hands does children books and children's accessories, crochet dolls, books that really speak to young children around some of the things like loneliness, anxiety, etc. Definitely all wrapped up into Dark Nubia Naturals, again, located at 1185 Weston Road. So if you're in the area, please feel free to drop by. The launch will be happening on March 5th and going throughout the week. There's some great discounts happening, great promotions on, so feel free to check them out. So that's what's trending right now. Now, as always, I love to talk about how the billionaires play. And let me tell you, Today, I want to talk about Amazon. I don't think I have another slide after this one, so we can pull this one down. I want to talk about Amazon. I always like I love studying big corporations. I love studying how they function, how they move, how they market, how they promote and advertise. But more importantly, I love to see how their operations are inside. And I study that because I specialize in operations and building operational models, systems, and processes for companies. And I'm a big believer that if you build the right foundation for your business, then you have every opportunity to scale at will. And all of these billion-dollar companies are not doing anything different. And so I want to normalize these conversations a little bit more, because a lot of the CEOs are missing out on the mark, and they're not recognizing that these businesses and these corporations spend umpteen amount of hours making sure that their internal systems and processes are in place so they can maximize on serving their demographic. So what are they doing in the world today? Amazon CEO Andy Jassy commented on how consumers are still spending, but very careful on how much they're spending with each product. And so Amazon sets a great example on how they focus on their customers. So here's a few key things that they're doing in e-commerce. They're continually reporting that the growth is still going. They're showing resilience even in fluctuating economic conditions. So here's a company that is worth billions of dollars, billions of dollars. However, they still take the time. Don't take it. They make the time to really sit down and ensure that everything that leads a consumer or a customer to the finish line, which is swiping the card or entering it in and purchasing a product, is on point. And so therefore they are taking every aspect and step to make sure that all their models are in place. Their subscription services, they're seeing increase in memberships, which indicates a strong consumer preference for bundled offers and fast shipping options. And they spent over $5 billion in, I think, 2024 in shipping. And one of the questions that was asked to the CEO was, well, you're rivaling, the US Postal Service in terms of shipping, almost out shipping them in terms of how much that they ship. And he said, at the end of the day, people want their products and they want them fast. And so we don't really think about how much we spend on shipping, because we want to make sure our customers are happy. So you can see where they're putting their efforts. They're putting their efforts ensuring that the Amazon Prime is living up to it, and those increased memberships are saying that people still value it. Now, if you work with me, you will always hear me talk about data. Data drives everything, right? I say men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Okay. And that's exactly how Amazon is doing it. They're utilizing their extensive data analytics to understand consumer behavior better. I want to repeat that again. Extensive, not 3 people telling you that you need to change your product, not 3 people telling you that your product's amazing. Like, yes, that is great for vanity metrics, but extensive data analytics means you're sampling thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of people and seeing why are they leaving things in the cart? Why are they not buying certain products? Should certain products stay on the shelf or come off? And when they understand that consumer behavior better, then it helps them to tailor better marketing strategies and inventory management. So these are all the things that, I love teaching in terms of saying, are you really looking at your business from a strategic lens, or are you just kind of going off of the pulse? Especially new businesses, when they come in, they're into the warm market and they're thinking that, my friends and family have bought and everyone's supporting me and that feels really good. But it never really fails. After the first year, you start to see a slope in sales because you are not actually reaching your demographic. You kind of just reached out to your warm market. And so as you're going through your business, how are you collecting data? How are you collecting surveys, feedback forms? How are you putting out opt-in forms or landing pages that you're going to be able to collect information so that you can do better marketing? All right. I think a lot of people think posting something on Instagram and just hoping for the thousands of likes for it to go viral is going to make it or break it each and every day. But we know that's not always the case, which leads to what Amazon has been doing very well. Sustainability initiatives, right? Recent consumer trends indicated that a growing preference for sustainable products is prompting Amazon to focus on eco-friendly practices and product offerings. Where is the trend in your industry? Lock it in, find out, and work with it, right? As you can see, Amazon is pivoting into some of those eco-friendly pieces, maybe something they didn't think about a year ago because it didn't mean anything. Nobody really cared. But as you know, when the people speak, the businesses listen because the people are the ones who really have the power. They have the money. I really hope that you had a good session today as we get on the wrap up. As always, if you have to ask yourself this question, what's next for your business? Well, let's talk about it. Please feel free to check out my website, empirebydesign.ca. Follow Empire by Design _ on Instagram. And you have the ability to just scan and even talk with. If you want to talk, hit I think on my bio and my Instagram, you can set an appointment or you can email me at info@empirebydesign.ca. If you are now joining, I am now leaving. But if you're now joining, hit the replay right here on Love Day Afro Beat Music, Talk, and Radio. Please make sure that you're checking out all the shows that are coming through the radio. Let me tell you, I've been listening to these shows and they're amazing. Each of them have topics with people who love to do what they do. And when you listen to somebody with passion, it makes a whole difference. So check out the shows that are coming look on the online radio, 24/7 music, shows, you name it, from all over the world, all over the world. So ensure that you're hitting us up each and every week. On that note, I want to thank you for being an amazing audience. As always, keep growing, because I always say, as entrepreneurs, in order to build your empire, one must know to grow. I'm Miss J, and as I tell all my people, keep your head in the skies, spread your wings, and let's fly. I'll see you next Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. right here on Love Day Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We out.